Do you ever feel like your emotions are running the show, like you're just a passenger in your own life, constantly reacting to every little thing that comes your way? 1 minute you're calm, the next you're spiraling, replaying that awkward conversation or fuming over something you can't change. We've all been there, and let me tell you, it's exhausting. But here's the thing, you don't have to live that way. What if I told you there's a 2,000-year-old philosophy with the tools to help you take control, not just suppress your emotions, but actually master them? It's called Stoicism, and no, it's not about being cold or emotionless. It's about finding strength and clarity in chaos. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 Stoic techniques that you can use right now to regain control of your emotions and face life's challenges with calm, unshakable confidence. Stick with me, because these aren't your typical self-help tips. They're practical, sometimes unconventional, and absolutely life-changing. So if you're ready to stop being a slave to your emotions and start mastering them, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive in. Number 1. The power of pre-rejection. You're not going to like this at first, but hear me out. The secret to controlling your emotions isn't winning every battle, it's learning to lose them before they even happen. Strange? Sure. But think about it. Most of our emotional turmoil comes from clinging to outcomes we can't control. A promotion, a relationship, a decision someone else makes. What if, instead of waiting for things to fall apart, you rejected the attachment to the outcome in advance? Sounds radical, right? It is. But it's also liberating. Let me paint a picture. You've worked hard on a project, poured your heart into it, and now it's time for feedback. You know the type. Your stomach's in knots, your mind's racing, and suddenly you're replaying 100 scenarios where you're either the hero or the failure. We've all been there. And yet, how often does that anticipation of rejection or praise actually help? Almost never. That's where pre-rejection comes in. You decide, before you walk into that room, before you hit send, that you're okay with whatever happens. You've already mentally said goodbye to the need for validation. Why does this work? Because it strips the stakes from the situation. Psychologically, we attach meaning to outcomes based on our expectations. When you let go of those expectations, you take away their power to hurt or overinflate you. It's not about apathy, it's about detachment. By choosing to pre-reject the emotional weight of an outcome, you walk in free, clear-headed, and ready for whatever comes. I'll give you an example from my own life. A few years back, I was applying for a role I really wanted. I'd done everything right, crafted the perfect resume, nailed the interviews, even bonded with the hiring manager over our mutual love of bad 90s sitcoms. And yet the waiting nearly killed me. I was refreshing my email like it was a life support machine. Then one morning I thought, what if I don't get it? Not in a doomsday kind of way, but in a calm, curious way. I imagined myself opening the rejection email, feeling the sting, and moving on. I even planned out what I'd do next. A different job, a side hustle, who knows? By the time the actual email came through, it was a rejection, by the way, I was fine, disappointed, sure, but not devastated. I'd already made peace with the possibility. This isn't about lowering your standards or settling for less. It's about reclaiming your emotional space. When you let go of the need to control every outcome, you gain control over yourself. You stop living in fear of what if and start owning what is. And the best part, people notice. When you're no longer desperate for approval or paralyzed by potential rejection, you exude a quiet confidence that's hard to ignore. So, the next time you're facing something big, try it. Mentally reject the outcome before it happens. Picture the worst-case scenario, make peace with it, and walk in with your head high. This is about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity. Because at the end of the day, your worth isn't tied to the result. It's tied to how you handle it. Number 2. Silence as a weapon. Here's a truth we don't talk about enough. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing. I know it sounds counterintuitive. We live in a world where words dominate. Social media posts, heated arguments, endless explanations. It feels like the louder and faster we speak, the more control we have. But what if I told you that silence, in the right moment, is not weakness, but a superpower? Sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it? But trust me, it's a game changer. Think about it. How many times have you been in a heated argument or confrontation and felt the overwhelming urge to respond, defend yourself, or fill the awkward void? You know the type of situation. Someone throws out a snarky comment and your mind scrambles to craft the perfect comeback. We've all been there, and yet, the more we say, the more tangled we get. Words can escalate, misunderstandings pile up, and before you know it, you're knee-deep in drama you didn't sign up for. Now here's where silence comes in. Silence isn't about backing down or avoiding conflict. It's about holding your ground without giving away your power. When you stay silent, you're doing something revolutionary. You're creating space. Space for the other person to reflect, for the tension to dissolve, and, most importantly, for you to stay in control of your emotions. It's like playing psychological chess. Your silence shifts the focus, leaving them wondering, what are they thinking? Why aren't they reacting? It's equal parts disarming and empowering. Let me give you an example. A few months ago, I was in a meeting where someone publicly criticized my work. You know that moment when the air gets thick and everyone's eyes dart between you and the person who's just called you out. My first instinct was to fight back, to defend myself. But instead I paused. I took a breath, locked eyes with them and said, nothing, just silence. The room grew so quiet you could hear the clock ticking. And you know what happened? They kept talking, but this time they fumbled over their words. The longer I stayed silent, the more their confidence unraveled. By the time I finally spoke, calmly and briefly, their argument had already lost steam. Silence isn't passive-aggressive, though it might feel that way at first. It's strategic. It gives you time to process, to center yourself, and to respond, if you even need to, with clarity and purpose. It also signals that you're not at the mercy of someone else's emotions or ego. And here's the kicker. Silence is unforgettable. People remember what you don't say far longer than what you do. This is about more than winning arguments. It's about reclaiming your peace. When you choose silence, you're refusing to let others dictate your reactions. You're prioritizing your energy, your clarity, and your dignity. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their chaos, try this. Pause, take a breath, and let the silence speak for you. Because sometimes the loudest statement you can make is the one you don't say at all. Your space, your peace, your power, protected, preserved, and entirely yours. Number 3. Doubt your own thoughts. Let me start with this. Your mind is a master storyteller, and not always a reliable one. Bold claim, right? But think about it. How often do we spin stories in our heads about what someone meant by that text, why a coworker gave us that look, or how we'll definitely fail at something before we even try? Now here's the kicker. Most of those stories, total fiction, and yet we believe them without question. What if I told you the secret to mastering your emotions wasn't fighting your thoughts, but doubting them? Not in a self-critical way, but in a curious, is this really true way? You know the situation. You're at a party, you say something, and suddenly your brain goes, wow, everyone thinks you're awkward. Or you send an email and immediately worry, what if they think I'm unprofessional? We've all been there. It's exhausting, isn't it? Our thoughts whip up storms out of nowhere and we get caught in the downpour. But here's the thing, just because a thought pops into your head doesn't mean it's true or even worth your time. Here's what doubting your thoughts looks like in practice. The next time your brain serves up a spicy little narrative like, "I'll never be good enough," or "They probably hate me," pause. Don't argue with it. Don't wrestle it into submission. Instead, ask yourself, is this a fact or a feeling? Is there actual evidence, or am I just catastrophizing? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize you've been sucked into an emotional mirage. By questioning your thoughts instead of blindly trusting them, you reclaim the steering wheel. Let me tell you about a time this saved me from spiraling. A few years ago, I gave a presentation at work. It wasn't my best. I stumbled over a couple of slides, forgot a key point, and afterward, my brain went into overdrive. Everyone thinks you're incompetent. They'll never take you seriously again. The mental chatter was deafening, but instead of letting it spiral, I stopped and asked, "Wait, is that true? Did anyone actually say that?" Spoiler alert, they didn't. In fact, when I followed up with a coworker, they mentioned how much they liked my examples. The embarrassment I'd felt was all in my head. Here's the magic. Doubting your own thoughts doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending negative thoughts don't exist. It's about creating enough space between you and your thoughts to decide which ones deserve your attention. When you do that, you're no longer a prisoner to every passing worry or fear. You're the one calling the shots. This is about reclaiming your peace and freeing yourself from the tyranny of your inner critic. Thoughts can be tricky, but they're not in charge. You are. So the next time your mind serves up a juicy narrative about how the world is ending because you made a typo in a text, pause, take a breath, and doubt it. Because often, the story you're telling yourself isn't the truth. It's just a plot twist you don't need to buy into. Your clarity, your control, your calm, it all starts with one question. Is this really true? Doubt your thoughts, trust yourself, and watch your perspective transform. Number 4. Radical voluntary discomfort. What if I told you the secret to becoming stronger, calmer, and more resilient wasn't about adding more comfort to your life, but about choosing discomfort? I know it sounds completely backward, right? We've been conditioned to believe that life is about minimizing pain, optimizing ease, and chasing convenience at every turn. But here's the truth. Real growth, the kind that transforms you, doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the moments when you willingly choose the hard path, not because you have to, but because you can. You know the feeling, that tiny jolt of hesitation before you step into cold water, the sinking sense of dread before a tough conversation, or the mental tug-of-war when you know you should get up early to work out, but your bed is just too inviting. We've all been there, choosing what's easy over what's challenging, convincing ourselves it's self-care, or that we'll do it tomorrow. But here's the thing, every time we avoid discomfort, we're letting it control us. And when discomfort controls us, we're not truly free. Radical voluntary discomfort is about flipping the script. Instead of avoiding discomfort, you seek it out on your terms. It's not about masochism or unnecessary suffering. It's about building a kind of mental muscle. Imagine deliberately stepping into situations that stretch you just a little, whether it's taking a cold shower, leaving your phone behind for a day, or pushing yourself to speak up in a meeting when it feels easier to stay quiet. These small, intentional acts of discomfort rewire your brain. They teach you to handle life's curveballs with grace instead of panic because you've practiced thriving in the face of challenge. Let me tell you about a time this hit home for me. I decided to experiment with cold showers. Just for a week, I told myself. The first morning, standing in front of the shower, I felt my brain screaming, "This is insane! Why are we doing this?" But I stepped in anyway. It was shocking and, yes, wildly uncomfortable, but something surprising happened. As the seconds ticked by, my body adjusted. By the end, I felt invigorated, alive, and oddly proud of myself. That feeling stayed with me all day, not just because I'd survived cold water, but because I'd done something hard on purpose. Choosing discomfort doesn't just toughen you up physically, it transforms you emotionally. It teaches you that you're stronger than the excuses your mind throws at you. It builds self-trust, showing you that you can handle more than you think. And the best part, you start to see discomfort not as an enemy, but as a teacher. It shifts from something to fear into something that empowers you. This isn't about living a life of constant struggle. It's about understanding that comfort alone doesn't build character. Challenge does. When you intentionally invite discomfort into your life, you're reclaiming control. You're saying, "I decide what challenges me, not the other way around." So the next time you're faced with a choice, easy or uncomfortable, pause. Consider the power in choosing the path that scares you just a little. Start small. Take that cold shower, delete the app for a day, say yes to the thing that feels just out of reach. Because every time you choose discomfort voluntarily, you're choosing growth, resilience, and strength. Your growth, your resilience, your power. It's waiting on the other side of discomfort. Step in and watch what happens. Number 5. The 10-year rule, rewind. What if I told you that the secret to making better decisions, letting go of stress, and finally gaining some clarity about your life is something you already have? It's not a self-help book or a magic mantra, it's simply time. But here's the twist. We're not waiting for the years to pass, we're rewinding them. Sounds a bit strange, right? Trust me on this. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why this one mental shift could change everything. So, let's rewind together. You know that moment when you're caught up in something? Maybe it's an argument, a career decision, or even just deciding what to say in an email. And it feels like the stakes are sky high. Your heart's racing, your thoughts are spinning, and you just can't stop obsessing. We've all been there, right? It's like your mind takes this tiny thing and blows it up into a life or death situation. And before you know it, you're either making a rash decision you regret later or paralyzed by overthinking. Sound familiar? Here's where the 10-year rule rewind comes in. It's simple, but it's powerful. Picture yourself 10 years from now, older, wiser, with a decade's worth of experience under your belt. Now, ask that future version of yourself, will this thing I'm stressing over matter in 10 years? Will that awkward interaction, that email, that impulsive purchase, or even that job rejection mean anything to you a decade down the line? Most of the time, the answer is a resounding no. And the beauty of this practice is that it gives you immediate perspective. It's like borrowing wisdom from your future self. I know what you might be thinking, but some things do matter in 10 years. What if I get it wrong? Sure, there are big decisions that shape our futures, but here's the magic of the rewind. Even if something will matter in 10 years, the act of stepping out of the immediate chaos and thinking long-term helps you approach it calmly and logically. You're no longer reacting emotionally. You're making choices with a clarity that only hindsight or this mental trick can bring. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I was in this heated situation at work. A colleague sent me an email that felt passive-aggressive, like really passive-aggressive, and my first instinct was to fire back with a snarky response. But then I paused and thought about the 10-year rule. I asked myself, will this email even cross my mind a decade from now? The answer was obvious. Of course not. So instead of letting my emotions dictate my response, I chose to step back, take a deep breath, and craft a reply that was professional and calm. And guess what? That colleague later thanked me for diffusing the tension. That moment taught me the power of rewinding, even when my emotions were screaming at me to do otherwise. This isn't about ignoring your feelings or brushing things off. It's about giving yourself the gift of perspective. This is about reclaiming your peace, your logic, and your ability to focus on what truly matters. When you apply the 10-year rule rewind, you stop giving your energy to things that don't deserve it and start investing in the things that do. So, here's your challenge. The next time you feel overwhelmed or tempted to react impulsively, take a moment to rewind. Ask yourself what your future self would say about this moment. Would they laugh it off, offer wisdom, remind you that this too shall pass? Because the truth is, you have that wisdom right now. You just need to pause and listen to it. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about giving yourself permission to pause, reflect, and choose better. Your future self will thank you, and in the process, you'll find more clarity and peace in the present. Until next time, stay grounded, keep growing, and trust that with the 10-year rule rewind, you've got this. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope these Stoic tips gave you some new tools and insights to navigate your emotions and take back control when life feels overwhelming. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who might need this message. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more content like this. And here's something I'd love for you to do. Share this video with someone you know who might be struggling with their emotions right now. It could be exactly what they need to hear. Also, let's start a conversation in the comments. Which of these Stoic tips resonated with you the most? Or do you have your own ways of practicing emotional mastery? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences, and I know others in the community would too. Remember, mastering your emotions isn't about being perfect or never feeling anything. It's about finding the strength to respond rather than react, and reclaiming your peace even in the face of chaos. Until next time, keep practicing, stay grounded, and take care of yourself. You've got this. ****.